sponsors of the show told the person who should win.
Right.
So the host of the show's mic'd up all the time and filmed. And there's 18 cameras filming that show. So then the shit they have when people talk about the outtakes, it's crazy. And the executive producer of that show's brother was my clip producer on the Best Sports Show, period. So I know what they have. People share it. And at the time, it's like hilarious. Here's a Christmas tape from me and Donald Trump saying all these racist, whatever things, going up to the camera woman, like in camera, you're fuckable. You're fuckable. You're fuckable. And so we got to get that out there before the Hillary election. And, these guys got so afraid. And by now, they were all working for Mark Burnett. He brought him in, hired him. They run Survivor. But they were very nervous too about Donald Trump, the worst human being ever. I got a huge fight at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house in Christmas 2016 after Trump was elected. Mark Burnett was there. He comes up and he's like, "Hey man, I'm not going to give you the tape that you want of Trump or Trump. Trump wants him, you want him. I'm not giving him." And then he's like, shows me, he goes, "And I'll tell you why." And he shows me a picture of his son as Trump's ring bearer. I'm like, well, that's fucked up. Anyway, some people are there, and they say, and the people I know, Hillary Clinton is more like, Hitler than Donald Trump. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? People inside all the institutions. I go, what in that is. So I get in a huge fight with people I genuinely like, and it's gonna, I don't know if we're gonna fist fight in Arnold's living room or whatever, but this Matt Van Wagenen speaks up and he says, the executive producer, the guy that works with Barnett, who's there, and says, "Wait a minute, Donald Trump is the worst human being I've ever met in my entire life." And everybody, he stepped up and did that. It's Eric Van Wagenen, the brother, and it froze everybody because nobody thought he was going to say that. And then I'm like, well, this is my exit strategy. I'm going to get out of here now. And so I walk out of Arnold's house, and he's got a very long driveway. There's a valet, and there'd been a car. The valet had smashed a car down, so it's taking a while to get the cars. And I'm standing there, and I look behind me, it's Clint Eastwood, who's very conservative. I'm like, oh, fuck. And he's like, Tom, Trump is a bonehead. He goes, the worst part about being elected mayor? Then you got to be mayor, which is his reference of he was the mayor. And so I thought that was pretty cool. I still, no matter what, I love Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
So I started, Vice got a hold of me and said after a little while, would you do a show? We like your social media. Would you do a show? We'll give you cameras. You can go wherever you want about Trump. We'll analyze each of these tape things. And that's how I got to know Michael Cohen, obviously. And when I first met Michael Cohen, people were like, I did a selfie with him in June of 2018 because I stayed at the Regency where I knew he was living. And I was getting ready to leave. There was a Rolling Stone reporter following me around, and the crew already started heading back to LA. And he walks. We're sitting there, me and the reporter having a drink in the front of the downstairs the Regency, and he's like, "It's too bad you didn't run into Michael Cohen." I go, "Yeah, whatever." And then I go, "Oh fuck, there he is, right there. He's coming in the door." So I jump up and Michael Cohen comes to the door, and I'm like, I don't know how this could go. It might go shitty. We might be fucking, and it went very well. He's like, "Oh, Tom, very nice to meet you. I know." And then the reporter took a picture of us, which I posted, and people went crazy. But the right wing people said, that's bullshit. He just did a selfie. He doesn't know Michael Cohen. Well, I did know Michael Cohen, and I made a lot of tapes with Michael Cohen, and I supported him in prison. I had a cell phone with him in prison, had 2 cell phones, because he was cooperating. And his cooperation, you will see even more payoff now, because the things that he went to prison for, the evaluating his property higher than it was worth to get loans from the bank, are the same thing that the Trumps did. So what goes around comes around. He's certainly been helpful with documents and stuff, but he got out of prison, and I'd always wondered, there's several things like this before he went to prison. I want to know about Jerry Falwell Jr. I like something doesn't add up that. Michael did this thing because by now I'd gotten to know the PoolBoy and then other PoolBoys, and I was putting it together, and I knew that Michael Cohen had fixed the thing for them in 2015, where there was a bunch of pictures that got out of Falwell's, and by the way, it was, people like when he got busted over this, Falwell said, "Oh, it was a boudoir picture that Becky took for me." Let me tell you, Becky had jizz all over her, and it wasn't his jizz, and he is in. People were dying that they wanted Jerry Falwell to get caught doing a homosexual act. That was their whole thing. I hated him because of his anti-LGBTQ and his anti-Muslim and stuff, and the fact that Giancarlo Granda, the legitimate pool attendant who had the 7-year affair, was half Mexican. I mean, just hypocrisy, and it was, but and all the lies and oh, we didn't do, and Jerry Falwell. So I recorded Michael Cohen. We talked about a lot of things, but that was one of the things. And I waited a little bit until the day he went into prison, because I always felt like he kind of likes the Falwells, Michael Cohen. He sounds like a broken-hearted, because they didn't, he went to their kids. I guess it's called a christening when you're Christian and you have the baby, and he bought them a gift from Chanel. And they haven't called him at all since he got arrested. And so he was broken-hearted. So I was like, this relationship could come back on. And it turns out it did. But the day he went into prison, I hooked up with the New York Times and Washington Post and Reuters, the guy of Reuters, and gave him the tapes of him explaining the deal he did to get Trump, to get Falwell to support Trump, and the fact that he still had a picture. Like, I got rid of all the pictures of the deal. Oh, I still have one, by the way, and it is terrible. And so I flew to New York immediately to see what all he had, but I said that changed our politics, because Jerry Falwell Jr. was not going to support Donald Trump, and then he did, and because Michael Cohen reminded him, remember that deal I fixed with you and your wife and the pool boy? Well, now I'm asking if I still have one of the pictures, by the way, and I'm asking a favor. And so if Jerry Falwell hadn't supported Trump, Jerry Falwell's so full of shit. But then the other evangelicals, that gave them cover to go for Trump, which makes zero sense. But so I got to know Giancarlo Granda, who's a really good dude, man. And he was a dude that's like 20, and he's working over there at the Fontainebleau, and this couple comes in, and they're really working him. Yeah, he wouldn't take much. When I was 20, I'd have been all in. They're like, here's some money, come to the hotel. I'd been like, yeah, and I want you to have sex with my wife. I'm just going to sit in the corner and jerk off. Okay. Yeah, it seems a little weird, but I'm fucking, give me some drinks, so I'm in. And so they developed this 7-year relationship, and Jerry didn't just sit in the corner. I mean, Jerry, all of a sudden Jerry be beside them, and then he worked his way over. And then Giancarlo was brave enough. I got to know him. I mean, his family was under so much pressure because, first of all, his family were Christians. They're like, "Oh my God, you're friends with Jerry Falwell at Beckyville? That's like being friends with Jesus." So to turn that around and go, okay, here's the real story. In fact, Jerry's threatening to blackmail me because he has a tape of me having sex with Becky Falwell. He's threatening to send that to my girlfriend. And I have text messages from Jerry threatening him, hey, when you're in prison, don't bend over to pick up the soap. Like threatening this kid. And this guy never asked for money. That's the thing. One of the other pool boys got $1 million settlement from them, but this guy never did. What he wanted was the business they bought together in Miami, the gay youth hostels, I call it. It's a youth hostel, but it's, it's for everybody. There's a lot of sex in it there.